occasionally people will respond to my discussions about the anti-democratic nature of the MAGA movement and thus the Republican Party, and specifically when we talk about the election denying. Some will come and say, I get what you're saying, that is bad, they shouldn't do that, but that's not that big of a deal. It's not a huge part of the party. It's not the Republican Party that's actually standing for that. It's an extreme element. False. It is the Republican Party. We've talked about polling in the past. 63% believe the election of Joe Biden was illegitimate. And now I have for you the chair of the Republican National Committee refusing to say that the 2020 election was free and fair. And I'll show this to you in just a moment. But again, it's so important that this be rejected aggressively, because number one, we see what it can lead to, such as January 6th, these types of lies. And you can't indefinitely have a functioning democracy if one of the sides says the only way that an election is fair is if we win. That doesn't work indefinitely within a healthy democracy. And so having now the chair of the Republican Party establishment, that's what the RNC is, going on national television and refusing to admit a basic fact, which is, yes, Biden won legitimately. And if that wasn't the case, you'll hear her reference certain details that don't have evidence for them. If it weren't the case that Biden won legitimately, then by now you would have had to bring forward evidence to prove that, and that hasn't been able to be done in the court of law, investigations, audits, etc., and much beyond. But still, the RNC chair is saying this. Take a look.
Speaking of the Republican race, you did sit down with the RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, for your show this week, and she is still, well, frankly, she's hedging on whether Biden actually fairly won the 2020 election. Let's have a listen.
When did you stop being an election denier?
I think saying there were problems with 2020 is very real. I don't think that's election denying. I mean, Chris, I'm from Wayne County. We had a woman send a note saying, I'm being told to backdate ballots. We had to look into that. That's deeply concerning. When you have friends who are poll watching and being kicked out, that's deeply concerning. We have every right to.
Do you notice how she said we had to look into that? We didn't find anything, but we looked into this accusation. Yeah.
Look at that. And I think everybody should have a little more concern about, listen, look at
wait a minute. Are you saying, as the chair of the Republican Party, that you still have questions as to whether or not Joe Biden was the duly elected president?
Joe Biden's the president.
No, I didn't ask you whether he's the president.
No, I don't think that. I think
Do you
there
think
were lots of problems.
He won the election?
I think there were lots of problems with 2020.
Do you think he
won the election?
Pardon?
But ultimately, he won the election. But there were lots of problems with the 2020 election. 100%.
And that's fair.
But I don't think he won it fair. I don't. I'm not going to say that.
You're saying you're not sure, as the Republican Party chair, that he was the legitimately elected
I'm saying there were
president.
lots of problems with the 2020 election, and we need to fix it going forward.
I mean, Chris, I understand the value of a yes or no.
Wow. So it's not shocking because she is kind of a put the finger to the wind type person, just go along with what the party wants her to do, it seems. And so here she's realizing, well, if I speak out against this, I'm going to be hated within my party for, at least when it comes to much of the party. But for the chair of the Republican National Committee to not be able to admit that election denying is wrong based on it not having evidence behind it, this current election denying, and the lies that Trump used to try to justify overturning a free and fair election with the fake elector scheme, and Mike Pence's role and what he's being investigated for right now federally, and possibly unlawfully attempting to install himself president despite losing an election. And she can't speak out against the lies that he was using to justify doing that. And also the same lies that caused January 6th, trying to prevent a lawful certification of a free and fair election, is absurd and dangerous. So dangerous, because now at every level you have so much of the sentiment within the Republican Party to its core that the attempts we've been hearing about and covering to kind of prepare for a future situation, if an attempt to overturn an election unlawfully is again tried, where maybe more people will be in the proper places to make that happen effectively. And that would be disastrous. We would, going back to 2020, if you had more people who bought into Trump's lies, Mike Pence maybe didn't go along with his obligation to the Constitution and instead went along with Donald Trump and many others down the line, we could have seen the death of American democracy right there, where someone stays president who lost an election shouldn't be there. And that would be disastrous. And that's what many are trying to set up for the future. Many, because they are hardcore election deniers, are trying to get in these election worker positions and trying to get to Secretary of State positions, and on it goes, to be ready to possibly actually steal, as much as they accuse the other side of stealing an election, actually steal an election if Trump were to lose this upcoming time, or maybe down the road beyond that. And so it is such a serious subject. It is so important. And I would just ask that no one downplays that, because now we have polling that indicates how many voters believe this. We see the politicians spewing lies constantly, and the chair of the Republican National Committee. This is the face of the modern Republican Party now. It is an anti-democratic party in more ways than just election denying, but the focus of this segment is election denying. And that, for everyone, should make them unwilling to vote for the party, but many unfortunately won't agree with me on that. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are able to be uploaded to the YouTube channel, plus get the bonus show on the weekends, you can do so by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/membership. That's lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, and there's a link in the description.